Hey everyone, my name is Brian Skinner from secretsofsushi.com, and in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to make the spicy tuna roll. I'm here at Rise Co-working Space in Moore, Oklahoma to bring you guys my latest tutorial on how to make a spicy tuna roll. For this tutorial, you're going to need some saku tuna, some sliced cucumber and chopped green onions, sriracha, some toasted sesame seeds, sesame oil, some nanami togarashi, or Japanese 7-spice, a few sheets of toasted seaweed, or nori, some seasoned sushi rice, a mixing bowl, a 1 tablespoon measuring spoon, and 1 teaspoon measuring spoon, as well as 2 spoons for mixing our spicy tuna. You'll also need your cutting board, a sharp knife, a bamboo rolling mat that's wrapped in cellophane, a damp towel, and a bowl of water. To start, we're going to take our block of saku tuna, and we're going to slice it up in some small pieces. This is about 2 pounds of tuna, and what I'm going to do is slice it down the middle, and then I'm going to slice it into strips. These strips are going to be approximately 1 centimeter wide. Next, I'm going to cut these strips into cubes. I've set approximately 1 pound of tuna aside because I want to keep these into cubes. But for this pound of tuna, I'm actually going to mince the tuna down to give it a much finer texture. And to do that, I'm just going to press my knife in a kind of a rocking motion, and this doesn't have to be neat at all. Once this half of the tuna has been minced, we can go ahead and add it to our mixing bowl. For the second half of the tuna, I'm going to slice it down into some pretty thin slices. The goal here is to have some kind of inconsistent texture for our spicy tuna salad. After our tuna's been all sliced up and added to our mixing bowl, you can wipe off your cutting board and then wipe off your knife and set it at the top of the cutting board with the edge facing away from you. This is the safest place for the knife to be when it's not in your hand. I should also note that different sushi restaurants across the world will have different ways of making a spicy tuna, but this is my preferred way to make a spicy tuna. Next, we're going to add our spicy ingredients. I like to stick to the ratio of using 1 tablespoon of sriracha for every 1 pound of tuna that I'm mixing. So since I'm using 2 pounds of tuna, I'll also use 2 tablespoons of sriracha. Next, I'm going to add my nanami togarashi, and I usually like to use half a teaspoon of nanami togarashi per 1 pound of tuna. So again, I'm using 2 pounds of tuna, so I'll use 1 full teaspoon of nanami togarashi. Next, I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of sesame oil per 1 pound of tuna. And then finally, I'm going to mix it all together using 2 spoons. I usually like to add my green onions after I've coated most of the parts of tuna with the spicy ingredients. So I'll just grab a pinch of green onions and sprinkle them in. Then we'll mix a little bit more. I think the green onions also add a nice variety of color. Next, we can set our bowl of spicy tuna salad to the side. And now we're ready to roll. Unfold your bamboo rolling mat and place the darker sides of the bamboo mat face up with the bamboo pieces running left to right. Next, grab a single sheet of nori or seaweed, and I'm using half sheets for this recipe. You want to set the rough textured side of the seaweed face up. Then you want to get your hands wet by dipping one hand in the bowl of water and rubbing your hands together. Our goal here is so that our hands are glossy but not dripping with water. Then grab a handful of rice, and we're going to spread the rice along the top of the seaweed. You want to have a layer about 3 to 4 grains deep, and remember it's better to go just over the edge than not quite to the edge. It's important that you use more of a rolling motion instead of just pressing straight down because we don't want to smash the individual grains of rice. Next, we're going to sprinkle some toasted sesame seeds on top of the rice. I like to tilt my toasted sesame seed bottle so that's parallel to the cutting board, and I'm going to shake just the opening right above the surface of the rice. Next, I'm going to get my hands wet again, and I'm going to grab the 2 corners furthest away from me, and then pick up the seaweed and the rice and gently flip it over. Now, I should mention that a lot of sushi restaurants, especially in the US, will only have tuna or the spicy tuna salad on the inside of the roll. But personally, I think it's actually better to have a crunchy ingredient on the inside to help kind of level out the consistency of the roll. So my preferred ingredient to add that extra bit of crunch is cucumber. So what I'm going to do is add a few slices of cucumber first, and then put the spicy tuna salad on top. If you have pieces of cucumber that overlap, you can just cut a small portion off, and that helps make the cucumber a little bit more consistent from end to end. Next, we're going to take our spicy tuna salad, and we're going to spoon just a little bit on top of the cucumber. So it's important that you put a little bit less than you think you need in the roll, because if you put too much, especially since this tends to be kind of a wet ingredient, what's going to happen is the spicy tuna is either going to be pushed out the ends of the roll, or the liquid from the spicy tuna is going to be squeezed out of the seam of the roll. Thus, the roll would fall apart once you start to cut it. So go ahead and form the spicy tuna around the piece of cucumber, and try to get it as consistent as possible from end to end. And now we're ready to roll it all together. Put your 2 thumbs underneath the bamboo rolling mat and use your remaining 4 fingers on each hand to hold on to the spicy tuna. You're going to curl your thumbs up and over all of the ingredients and continue to roll it until you lose sight of the ingredients altogether. Now at this point, we're going to squeeze back towards us, but make sure you don't squeeze too hard because we don't want the spicy tuna to come out of either end. So just give it a gentle squeeze towards you, and then lift up the bamboo rolling mat just slightly enough so that it's no longer in the way. And using one hand, pull it away from you, and with the other hand, just apply enough downward pressure to keep the bamboo rolling mat up against the rice. And we're just going to finish rolling it forward. Now roll your sushi roll over and check to see if anything is squeezing out the bottom. If you do have something squeezing out of the bottom seam, you can add a little bit of rice to the bottom seam to cover everything up, and then roll that over so that the newly added rice is now on the bottom. And then you can take the bottom part of the bamboo mat and drape it over the top of the roll, and then gently, while keeping the top of the bamboo mat rounded, just press down ever so slightly. And that's going to conform the newly added rice to the rest of the roll. Now to help make sure our roll is consistent from end to end and all the excess air is squeezed out, what we're going to do is move our sushi roll to where it's about 1 inch away from the top of the mat, and then we're going to drape the bottom of the mat over the top. Now using your non-dominant hand, grab onto just the bottom part of the bamboo mat, and with your dominant hand, spread your fingers as wide apart as you can and press down so the top part of the mat is now touching the bottom part. But it's really important that your fingers are not actually pressing down on the roll itself. While maintaining a firm grip with your non-dominant hand and pressing down with the fingertips of your dominant hand, pull the sushi roll back so that it rolls in between the 2 pieces of the bamboo mat. So again, this is going to tighten up our roll a little bit. It's going to repair the shape in the event that it's kind of oblong, or maybe it's a square-shaped roll, and it's also going to squeeze out all the excess air. I usually recommend that you do this step 3 or 4 times, and then you can pick up your sushi roll and set it onto your cutting board. And if you have the ingredients squeezing out the ends, you can drape your bamboo rolling mat over the top, and with one hand, form the mat around the roll, and with your other hand, get your fingers slightly wet, and then tuck those ingredients in using the edge of the bamboo mat as a guide. Repeat the same process on the other side, and then fold up your bamboo rolling mat. And now we're ready to cut our roll. Take your damp rag or towel and drape it over the back of your sushi knife, and then pull the knife out of the wet rag. This should apply just enough water to the knife so it doesn't stick to the spicy tuna or to the rice itself, at least not as much. Set the knife in the middle of the roll and remember to utilize the full length of the knife. Try to imagine like you're sawing through a log and not chopping a piece of food. So we really want to let the weight of the knife and the sharpness of the knife carry it from the top of the roll down to the cutting board. Try to keep your back and forth pushes and pulls consistent, and then stack your 2 halves on top of each other. Then we're going to set our knife in the middle of the roll again and repeat that process. If you find that you have debris stuck to your knife, you can very carefully pull it off, and then wipe your knife off using that wet rag. And then we're going to cut the quarters of our rolls into 8s. So set them in the middle of the 2 pieces again. And a quick tip is that you want to hold the pieces of sushi in place, but you don't want to squeeze so hard that your fingers leave like little indentions in the roll. So I'm just holding onto the sushi enough to keep it in place. Once we're done cutting our roll, you can wipe your knife off and set at the top of the cutting board with the edge facing away from you. Remember, this is the safest place for the knife to be when it's not in your hand. Next, we can put our roll back into a straight line, and then we can drape our bamboo rolling mat with the flat portions of the bamboo on top of our roll, and just gently form the bamboo mat around the sushi roll. This will help any frayed pieces of rice that may have come apart when we were slicing it to form back into the roll originally. Now you can stack your sushi pieces up in whatever sort of plate arrangement that you like. Personally, I like to stack the 4 pieces on top of the other again, and then dramatically stagger them in one direction or another. It should have kind of a stair-step look to it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to stay up to date with all of my upcoming sushi roll recipes, click on the subscribe button below. And if you want to learn more information about how to make sushi at home, check out my website at secretsofsushi.com. If you guys have questions about where to buy specific ingredients for this recipe, like the Nanami Togarashi, I'll put links below to where you can buy it on Amazon. My name is Brian Skinner from secretsofsushi.com, and thank you for watching.